worry about it. It's coming. That's Bob's thing's coming.
What is that? Scare me.
Nordco Money Man.
We're going to call the meeting of the council to order. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance by our own fighting CB, Mr. Bill McGee. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Ms. Zembo, would you call the roll?
Mr. Kuzic. Present. Mr. Dean.
Here.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Kraft. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oops.
Mr. McGee. Here. Ms. Fargo Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
And Mr. Rinsky.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from October 4th. A
So
motion
moved.
to second?
I'll second.
Okay. Call for the voice acclamation vote. All in favor?
Aye.
I was reading Ms. Zembo's instructions. They're very clear. They're very clear.
But
I
what's
like
the
that.
BH?
Anyway. All right.
Budget hearing minutes.
Those
We
minutes.
need
You
to
have two
approve those.
minutes.
Now we're going to have confirmation of reappointments.
Ron,
What?
there's a second minutes to approve?
Another.
October 9th.
Oh, thank you. Never mind. Quit
Yeah.
leading me
I'll make
astray.
a motion to approve the October 9th budget hearing minutes by acclamation.
So move. All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Second. Aye. All right, we're done. Let's move on.
Listening to him.
Confirmation of reappointments, appointments. Mr. McGee.
Sure. Resolved by the Northampton County Council that the following individuals shall be confirmed in their reappointments as indicated thereafter. Conservation District Board reappointments for Tara Sarinsky, term to expire December 31st, 2019. And for the farmer directors, Joel Geiger, for the term to expire December 31st, 2022, and Donald Mack. Graysdale Advisory Board appointment, Mary Ann Schweitzer, term to expire April 19th, 2020. Are any of the folks here tonight,
I am.
other than Tara?
Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to say? I think we can then have the vote on all three of them at one time. I don't see a problem. All four, excuse me.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Rinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
And Mr. Dean.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you. All right, now we have courtesy of the floor, and I have one person who signed up, Mr. David Gogol. If you'd like to come to the podium and restate your name, we're all on board.
My name is David Gogol. I've been in business in this county for 42 years. I've also been on the Northampton Area School Board for 15 years, the last 10 as president. So some of my comments and thoughts might be advantageous, some might not. Save Graysdale, we heard the words several years ago. And I keep hearing several disturbing comments about the current administration. First item is the Halloween party, which they have supposedly nixed for this year, and it's been going on for many, many years. And the current administration figures we're not going to have it this year. And the main thing about the Halloween party is that it allows staff and residents to do something together and build relationships. Next item that I have is human relations. My main thrust is change the culture of that place. Recruitment and retention. seems like it's not happening. The people are coming there to work. You train them. They soon find out what kind of place it is, and they're out of there. Make the working conditions better, and I think they will stay. Also, you conduct exit interviews for all the people that leave. I don't know if that's a common thing at county level, but I know at the school district it happens for every employee. Short of staff. Seems like the staff is short all the time. Administration is mandating that they stay after their normal hours. And I've heard that on October the 12th, they held all employees for about an hour and a half until they got somebody to volunteer to take the place that they were short. Imagine how much money was paid holding maybe several hundred employees for that time, just so that they could satisfy their quota of people having to be there. Job descriptions, are they up to date? How often do you look at them? And are they modified if needed? What is the process to change them? Administration has the right to adjust and change job descriptions to their liking so that employees have the qualities that are needed for that job to care for the residents. Some nurses have training in specialized areas which would qualify them for a specific job. One that I hear about is wound care is important. Some nurses have wound care experience, but they're not being used in that capacity. Policies are also important. I know at the school district we go through our policies every 2 years. Go over them, check them. Administration as well as board members participate. To me, the rate of pay is something that is somewhat agreeable yet disagreeable. It seems to me that rate of pay is always not the most important, but working conditions that people work in are more important.
Mr. Gogol, I just want to let you know you have 2 minutes left of the 5.
Well,
That's okay. I just wanted to let you know.
I'll be done. So we have to change the culture of how things are done. Example at Northampton. We hired 2 or 3 people this year, and they came to us and took a pay cut. And why did they do this? Because of the working conditions and the way people get along and do things together. Also, visitation and communication by administration and supervisors, to me, is important. I know our superintendent travels to each and every school once a week to see what things are happening, what's he doing, greet the employees, and I'll tell you the truth, the grapevine is king. So, like I said, I think administration and supervisors should be around that building pretty regularly to be visible and to see what's going on. Also, like I said, communication. We had communications amongst ourselves, the board and the superintendent's office every week. Every Friday, an email goes out, and whatever's happening gets talked about and discussed. And so, to me, that's important. And so, I was just like to thank you for hearing me out. Maybe some good suggestions, maybe not, but we have to work on this problem because it seems like we're not saving Graysdale anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Gogol.
Thank you.
Are there any other speakers who would like to address council during courtesy of the floor? Seeing none, we'll move on to the presentation by the Airport Authority. You could come up and give us your name.
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Tom Stout, and I'm the Executive Director of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority. I'm very pleased to be here this evening to provide a little bit of an update about the airport system to the council, and also like to quickly thank Chuck Diakon, our chairman of the Board of Governors, Tara Zarinsky, also a member of our Board of Governors, and staff members Todd Kwan and Colin Riccobon, also here this evening from the Airport Authority. So I won't take too much time, I promise, but we'll run through the slideshow here pretty quickly. And certainly if there's any questions, be happy to answer those. So just a quick agenda on some of the things I wanted to cover this evening. Again, I just kind of run through this as quick as we can, but strategic framework, just a discussion on our vision and our mission, very important to our organization, something that we refined in 2017, and really a customer-centric focus for us, really a safety, efficiency focus, and a continued economic development focus. So how do we get to all those things? And that's really through our strategic framework. When we talk about culture and we think about how the organization is built, very key elements. In terms of what's happening and kind of a snapshot for the organization, we're still the 4th largest airport, ABE is, in the Commonwealth. 4 passenger carriers. We also have 11 nonstop destinations. Last year was our highest passenger traffic since 2012. And air cargo increase continues to climb for us. In terms of the regulatory side of the house, our audit report was provided. We do have some copies here this evening. But 2017, last 3 years, we've had an unqualified opinion. So we continue to improve our financial reporting, and we continue to have these clean audits, excellent financial stability. Again, last year, net income in excess of $3 million. This year, we're on target for the same number, about a little over $3 million. We've improved our leverage on debt, very important for us. Dramatically different from where we were 5 years ago. 2013, 3 days cash on hand. 2018, we fast forward 103 days cash on hand. So different altogether. Airport certification. Airports are inherently dangerous places, but there's a lot of safety in place at those airports. And one of the things that the FAA is charged with doing is making sure that we are safe. And so just this year, we received a perfect inspection by the FAA. It's a 3-day inspection, very comprehensive, includes a night inspection. But again, we were very proud of the fact that we did receive a perfect compliance inspection from the FAA. In terms of air service, 11 consecutive months of continued growth. So we continue to see the numbers rolling in, very positive this year. We're at 592,000 passengers already. Allegiant continues to be our #1 carrier. They added 100 additional flights this year, and they continue to grow. And we continue to be excellent partners with Allegiant. They're up 22% year to date. But the other thing to note is the legacy carriers and the strong performance we're seeing by American, Delta, and United, and I think that's remarkable as well. Our nonstop destinations, as I mentioned, 4 carriers. We see the 11 nonstops there in the map. In terms of ongoing plans at ABE, our master plan workshop was in May, and so an opportunity for the public to comment on future plans for Lehigh Valley Airport. You can also take a look at the clip of that on YouTube. Basically, our 20-year plan, very important document. That's where all of our capital improvements and airfield developments come from. And again, we're looking to wrap that study up. Several-year progress report here, but basically December of this year, that should be completed. If you squint really hard, you can see a few folks from the room. I think Mr. Dietz and some Mr. McClure is actually in the photo here. We had a groundbreaking of the hangar here just in August, and so it's a 54,000 square foot facility looking to be complete in the summer of not 18, because that would be kind of funny, but that's interesting. So summer of 19, and it was really great for the fact that we were able to get $6 million from the State Bureau of Aviation for this project. Every year the state only has $10 million throughout the Commonwealth. Lehigh Valley was able to collect 6 of that 10, so fantastic. In terms of self-sustaining, one of the things that we always are looking at is to continue to be self-sustaining as an authority. And some of the things that we do to kind of further that goal include the non-aeronautical revenue development. And so not just the hangars and the other aeronautical components of the aviation system, but looking at how we can continue to be an economic engine for the region. And so a couple of areas include some of the property that the authority holds just east of ABE, and we're looking at some long-term development agreements with Majestic Realty there, as well as a hotel and retail center right out in front of the airport at Lehigh Valley. So a couple of different projects that we're working through preliminarily, and pretty excited to bring those online for the authority. The other thing we did, we're actually, other than Ireland and Hartsfield, Atlanta, we're the third airport in the world to have a sensory room. And so it was a great partnership with the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties. And I have a quick video I'd actually like to just show you there. So, take a look here.
Having the sensory room is the icing on the cake for sure. It's another tool in the toolbox for families who are worried about how their son, daughter, family member who has autism or other sensory sensitivities is going to react.
It's available 365 days a year. It really helps provide that decreased stress environment that customers can enjoy in advance of waiting for that flight.
Particularly if it's a child that hasn't been on a plane before, they really want to be able to get them to readjust, get back, self-regulate, get back to where they were before they came through TSA. They want to relax a little bit, so this is the perfect room to do that, to sit down, relax, calm down before you go to the next exciting thing, boarding the plane.
Being engaged in the community is one of those elements that's critical to the airport authority. And when you look at the number of people involved beyond the airport and the ARC, it goes so much deeper than that.
Having those new partners, new relationships, people saying we care about this community is immeasurable.
So just really a phenomenal room for us to have, and it's really about some folks traveling through the facility who have issues with physical issues or mental or emotional issues, and being able to provide this type of room when there's a lot of sensory overload at an airport and through that checkpoint, it's been a phenomenal feature. So let's see here. Braden Air Park. What a success story, and when we look at the news about Braden, Braden is back. And a lot of activity, a lot of real positive developments at Braden, and we thank the county in terms of what's occurred there. When we look at the investment, quite a number of accomplishments at the air park. So roof repair on all 4 bulk hangars, a lot of pavement rehabilitation, hangar floor resurfacing, office areas. So as you run down the list, it's pretty amazing. And in January of this year, we were able to actually begin a new marketing initiative because of a lot of the funding that was put into the air park. And as a result of that, you see 2 new businesses in Northampton County. You have ProFlight Aero Services, a flight school, and Spirit Wings Aviation, an aircraft maintenance provider. And both of those are at Braden, and we're excited to have those businesses, excited to have those opportunities and those services at Braden, but we're not done. And so there's a potential for some other ideas that we're working on, and Executive McClure has been of great assistance there. So we continue to look at some new ideas about what can be happening at Braden, including a new terminal building. So the terminal building that's in place today doesn't look anything like the one we tore down. The one that's in place today is a modular structure. It's a temporary structure, but we did receive another grant from the Bureau of Aviation to construct a brand new terminal, permanent terminal facility for Braden. And we're excited to have a space in that's available for the community. So just a really exciting opportunity for us to continue to develop the air park. Other community engagement events at Braden, September 16th, our partnership with Equilibrium continues. Again, assisting individuals with special needs through the fundraising that we do at that polo match, and our Winged Warriors helping the Pediatric Cancer Foundation of the Lehigh Valley. Great event, a run on the runway, so really unique opportunity. It's been pretty popular. 170 participants, even though it was 46 degrees and raining. So just incredible. So in terms of public access, again, our next meeting is coming up October 30th. We always have those typically at the boardroom. I will say that the live stream seems to be very popular, and we see a lot of folks tuning in to watch the meetings live. but there's also 2 years history of board meetings on YouTube, so if you have interest in going back, just terrific access and transparency for the public to be able to take a look at our meeting activities. So with that, that really concludes the presentation itself. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments, Councilman? Mr. Kuzic?
Got a couple. Part of your turnaround was the result of sale of land and land development. Do you believe that's sustainable long-term, or is the land development continuing to be part of your business plan?
Sure. So airports across the country are really looking at the non-aeronautical revenue component. When we looked at the number of carriers based at ABE, we used to have a dozen. Based on mergers and consolidations, we're at 4, and we're actually very pleased to have 4 carriers. And so what we're seeing over time is the aeronautical revenue beginning to dwindle at small airports and airports the size of Lehigh Valley. So it's imperative that we look at non-aeronautical development to continue to be self-sustaining, not receiving tax funds. And so to answer your question, there are some land sales that have occurred. But what we're really looking at now is a long-term lease on land. So continuing to retain ownership, but having that recurring revenue is really going to be critical for a number of things, whether it's air service development. It continues to provide another revenue stream, decrease costs to our carriers, so when we can go to a home base and market a new route that's intriguing to the community, it helps us when those rates are continually coming down. And that's very important. So the development is important at all 3 airports, and the more that we can make the general aviation airports like Queen City and Braden self-sustaining, working on their own revenue generation, it is critical to what we're doing.
Okay. And my other question has to do with routes. Have you looked at, and I've asked this question for years now, direct flights to San Juan, Cancun, the Dominican Republic? I think not everybody wants to go to Florida for vacation and travel. Have you looked at those as a possibility?
Absolutely. And we continue to have some very interesting conversations with carriers for those particular routes, and one of those in particular. But I think the challenge is in this particular market, the carriers, particularly legacy carriers, have become very focused on service to their hubs and not overflying a particular hub. And that means that getting that direct route from an airport the size of ABE directly to one of those is a little bit more challenging. So what is it going to take? Well, the non-aeronautical revenue, decreasing some of our costs, making us a little bit more attractive, and also finding the right partner is key. And so finding someone who has an interest in those markets and sees the value in this region as providing a lot of opportunity to market into those different destinations.
So in other words, we may have to incentivize at first in order to get
and the airport does
started.
provide marketing incentives for new routes. So that's always part of our incentive package when we go out to market the route. But it's about finding the right carrier partner, and I think we have some excellent partners already, and we're continuing to have some great dialogues with those.
Maybe if we all get timeshares in Cancun, though, put pressure on them. Anyone else have any questions? Or
just a general applause to the administration. A lot of it is being open to public comments and suggestions. Which it was. I think it was the counties that brought up about airing them on video and changing some of the dates on them so more people could attend them. And even the small things of like over at Braden Airport, being airport open to looking at the tie-down rents to be more competitive with other community airports as well. So
absolutely,
I'd like to applaud you guys for that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that, and we appreciate the county's support. Certainly, in the air park development couldn't have occurred without that support, and the continued support of the county executive and this council is just immeasurable, and we thank you.
Ms. Ferraro?
I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing at Braden. That was really important to the county. And about a fixed-based operator, do we have that at Braden, or don't we need it, or
Sure.
Did I miss something?
No. That's a great question. So the FBO in this case is Lehigh Valley Aviation Services. It's a division of the Airport Authority. So we are providing those fixed-based operator services. Okay. If we think back to the days of Moyer Aviation,
right.
They were also a flight school. So in this case, we have a flight school business, we have a maintenance business for aircraft, and we're providing those FBO services at this time. But we're 7 days a week, and we're excited. Braden's back.
I have a question. Recently, I saw a piece, it was rather scalding on Allegiant Airlines.
Sure.
At the issues they're having and they've had. And I know that's one of our primary carriers. Does that, and you could tell me if that isn't part of what you would be involved in at all, but does that ever come up in your discussions with them or in any way, shape, or form?
So
if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. So the way that article came about, I think, had to do with some misinformation. And I think if we look at the current data, if you care to Google information, there's pretty interesting information from FAA data on incidents per operation. And it's pretty remarkable to see Allegiant as the number 1 or 2 carrier in that category currently. So they've really come from a period where they're out-phasing a lot of their older aircraft. And what we're seeing now, and that'll be completed actually next month, late November around Thanksgiving, is going to be the last McDonnell Douglas MD-80, and that aircraft will no longer be part of their livery. So we're going to see now the Airbus aircraft, newer technology, newer aircraft. Certainly, if you have a newer car, it still can break, right? But so many redundant systems on these aircraft, and I'm not the pilot in the room, certainly.
I rely on Mr. Dietz to tell me when the new planes and how good they are.
So many redundant systems on these aircraft, and that's the great thing is that when there is an issue, the aircraft is taken out of service.
So from Lehigh Valley, we haven't really run into any major issues?
No,
okay.
not at all.
Thank you. That's all I was curious about. Anyone else have any questions, concerns, issues? Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And now we will move on to County Executive Report. Mr. McClure, do you have a report?
I do.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
You've got the podium.
So at the last budget hearing, you had some excellent questions of Lanta regarding some issues with service and the types of services that are provided, and I just wanted to provide you with some context for what I think you were getting at. And so, the weekly hours of service, Lanta in Lehigh County, 60.4%. In Northampton County, 39.6%. You're considering a line item in your budget that pays the same amount of money that Lehigh County pays. Their bus boardings, Lehigh County, 66.8% of Lanta bus boardings are in Lehigh County, which leaves 33.2% of the bus boardings in Northampton County. That's not 50-50. The Americans with Disabilities para boardings, Lehigh County, 61.3%. Northampton County, 38.7%. So why am I raising these issues with you? Well, I am because there is an equity issue here. And, we pay 50% of the local money. Lehigh County pays 50% of the local money, but Lehigh County gets, in some instances, 2/3 of the services. There's a question, and it's a complicated question, but there's what are we subsidizing? What are we subsidizing? It's a very interesting question, and there are answers to that, but that's not my purpose here today. My purpose here today is, and I believe Councilwoman Vargo Hefner has researched this matter historically, and I was led to believe for a decade that it was in the founding documents of the Lanta's charter that the counties were required each to put in 50% of the local share. Is that your understanding, Mr. Heckman? Yeah, and you were here you were here the first time a few years before I got here. So now we're probably talking about 25 years of that understanding.
Yes.
I can find no evidence that that's part of the founding documents. There was essentially an agreement, a handshake agreement. that that's how the funding would take place. I don't tell you that for any other purpose than it may be when the charter again comes up for reconsideration in 2022, Northampton County may want to have formulated a position with respect to the equity of the services provided. And you may say to me, okay, Lamont, well, you know, they have more people. Yes, they do. Maybe they have more miles of roads. Maybe they do. But we have issues that could be addressed that I know the late Deb Nunez was working with Atlanta on, and we have problems that I think Councilwoman Zorinsky rightly talked about. One of her constituents who has difficulty with Atlanta and getting transportation, and you know, we were with Deb before she passed away, and Deb was not an insignificant person to be in the room negotiating, and she wasn't making any headway. And I had told her not too long before she passed that I'd be raising these issues with you because if County Council and the executive are serious about having changes made, then she would have a little support when she was in that room from us. Also, we tried to get a bus stop at West Easton for obvious reasons. You know, we have our work release folks coming in and out of there, you know, all day long and into the night and in the early morning. And we wanted a bus stop at West Easton, but we couldn't get one because we couldn't guarantee a certain number of riders. Well, we're getting less than 40% of the services for 50% of the money. And they couldn't give us one bus stop because we couldn't guarantee a certain number of riders in a way that would have, I think, really benefited the citizens of West Easton, who, by the way, are doing a public service of their own by hosting our work release facility. And you all are familiar with the challenges they've faced through the years. I wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight for your consideration. I'm not, and just so we're clear, and I don't leave it hanging out there, I'm not advocating that this year you don't budget the money that has been requested. That's not what I'm advocating. I think that's taking a baseball bat to a problem that may need a scalpel to solve. So, but again, I don't have a vote. MS4, that is not a gang. That is the stormwater permit that we need because, as you might imagine, we shed quite a bit of stormwater. And for years, for whatever reason, mostly I think because no one would accept responsibility for the jurisdiction of completing the application, Northampton County's application had gone uncompleted. So we have finally, thanks to Serena Davis and Joe Lakey, we got, and many other people who worked on it, but they were the primary county employee drivers of this. We had help from Sharon Pletchen at Conservation. We got the application done, and last week we received our permit from the Department of Environmental Protection. So we're good for stormwater until I believe 2022 or 2024. So we did that. I would specifically request that you take action to abolish the higher education and hospital authorities. It's time to clean that up. There's no need for them, and I would ask that it needs to be done by ordinance. We have researched extensively what has to be done, and we can share with Mr. Spadoni, if you wish, the research that we have found, and I believe it has to be done by ordinance. And I'd request the council do that.
Isn't it because there's still funds left in those
No,
accounts?
so the statute would not let us abolish it, would not let you abolish it if there was debt outstanding, if it owed any bills. But it doesn't. One of them actually has money. The other does not.
Given its standing, I think that's why we might have to do an
And you
ordinance.
can, you can ask him the next time he's here, but my understanding, it's Mr. Hammond's opinion, that that's actually county money. And so we would probably work with the General Purpose Authority to determine whether that should continue to reside in the General Purpose Authority for General Purpose Authority purposes, if you will, or that it should come back to the county. And we're talking
Sounds good.
about $950,000. But you should abolish those authorities and clean that.
Yeah, we tried too long ago, or thought about it anyway.
Thank you. Just very quickly, at your next Human Services meeting, I think you should more closely question Ms. Wondolowski about the Halloween activities at Graysdale. My understanding is that it's not it isn't that there won't be Halloween activities. There still will be. The kids are still going to come to trick or treat. There'll still be some of those interactions. But apparently, in the past, some of the costuming raised dignity issues for some of the residents. And we're having more and more folks who have been diagnosed with dementia, Alzheimer's, general behavior folks, and it isn't always appropriate to put them in costumes. They can't necessarily consent to it, and it's you're really asking a lot of employees to make that decision. It's not a fun thing to have happen. So I understand that some people are disappointed that they're changing the way they're celebrating Halloween there, but Halloween still will be celebrated at Graysdale.
Can't they just have voluntarily, if you want to, dress up.
Yeah, I don't think
There's enough
anybody,
people there
nobody's
with-
being prohibited from putting
okay.
a costume on if they
Okay.
want. Wound care, again, I think you should question Sue when she's before you. The wounds have come down dramatically. It's just really great news. I think in part because we focused on it, part because we learned how to use the beds. I think that was very important. And we have, I think, finally got the wound care team to the point where that's what they're doing. And we're making it very difficult for them to pull wound care nurses off the wound care team unless we're going to fall below where we need to be with our PPD. So they are concentrating on. So what I had my Graysdale meeting with the Graysdale administration today, and how they explained it to me was, the wound care team now is doing the evaluations of the marks that are on folks' body, so that if the RN or the LPN who's on duty sees a red mark and they note it as a sore, the wound care team, the folks who are specifically trained to identify and treat the sores, come in and they check it out to see whether it qualifies as a bed sore or not. And if it does not, it's not reflected as one. And then the additional care that is needed to keep it from becoming an open sore is given. So it's working out. One of the things we're very happy about is those numbers are coming down. Actually, they reported to me that our nursing average has been above budget. So, yeah, we're getting that turned around, and we're hiring LPNs, we're hiring CNAs. That's both up, and it's a problem that didn't happen overnight and won't be solved overnight. And as Mr. Cusick, I think, rightly points out, we have to also consider the bottom line. So it's a balance, and we're trying to walk that fine line. That, sir, is all I have.
Does anyone have any?
I suggested earlier the necessity for a brief executive session, but we'll do that later.
We're looking at that after the end of new business, before committee reports.
Thank you.
Question, Ms.
Well, I don't want to belabor it, but it does show me the section where we have the authority to establish or abolish any authority, but since it's under or housed in the GPA, does the GPA have to weigh in on that, or
I don't
not
think
at all?
so. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Can I have the solicitor take a look and see what he thinks, speak with
We'll
county
share what we
solicitor?
have.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. McGee.
I think it's clear.
You mentioned about the Graysdale issues, and I appreciate what the gentleman brought to the table here tonight. But the recruitment plan that you guys put in place, I thought was phenomenal. So I mean, I don't know if he understands that or not, but I just think that you guys have been doing a really good job recruiting the folks.
Oh no, I absolutely respect the gentleman's point of view, and I agree with most of what he said.
Right.
And I think that we have had a slight philosophical shift since I took office, but we have to be mindful. We can't just hire to hire. And when we do hire new people, we have to have a culture, we have to develop a culture at Graysdale that's open and accepting and nurturing. So we're working on that as well. And that isn't always the case. So, progress is being made, but it's slow and sometimes painful. And again, it's part of my job to make sure that I don't just throw money at a problem.
Then I think what you're saying is, I think over the past, Graysdale's strength at times was its insular culture, which at times then turned out to be a weakness when the winds of change were coming, and sometimes that insular attitude that administrators have had in years past created a roadblock to maybe new thinking and making new, going in new directions. So I think you're walking that line, and that's always a difficult line to walk.
Well, sir, you administered it, so you have some insight.
Anything else for the county executive?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, moving on. I don't have anything under old business. Does anyone have any old business? All right, out with the old, in with the new. New business. First on the list is the consideration of approval of bond council resolution. Mr. Cusick, it's yours.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the Director of Fiscal Affairs to hire the firm of Dinsmore and Scholl LLP to serve as bond counsel for the 2019 general obligation bond issue.
Okay. That doesn't use that. Any discussion, questions? I think it's pretty straightforward. All right. Mrs. Zumbo, will you call for the vote?
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Rinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
And Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8-0.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have the introduction of an ordinance entitled the Ordinance of the County of Northampton authorizing the indebtedness, one of our bond issue. And Ms. Hefner, if you would like to introduce that, I think if you could read that paragraph.
All right, let me find it. An ordinance of the Council of the County of Northampton, Northampton County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the incurring of non-electoral debt by the issuance of a general obligation bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $35 million, covenanting to pay and pledging all available taxing power of the local government unit for the payment of the bonds, establishing a sinking fund and appointing a sinking fund depository, fixing the form, maximum interest rates, maturity dates, and other provisions for the payment thereof, authorizing the acceptance of a proposal for the purchase of the bonds, authorizing a filing of required documents with the Department of Community and Economic Development, ratifying and directing certain actions of officers, and making certain other covenants and provisions in respect of the bonds.
Thank you. So you're introducing that?
Yes.
Is there a second for Ms. Hefner's ordinance? Mr. McGee is second. So that's introduced tonight, and we will have the public hearing and debate and possible vote on November 1st, 2018. All right. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Mr. Deeds. Go ahead.
Yeah, as long as they're here, I just asked,
Sure.
could you run the numbers if it was at like 3.5% if the bond came back, and 4 just to see what the numbers would look like? Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they're here, if somebody has some real question they'd really like them to check on to, that's fine for Nick. But we'll have the public hearing then when we have the next meeting. Okay. Now we're moving on to the introduction of an ordinance titled, an ordinance removing Mr. Robert Scott as a member of the Revenue Appeals Board. Does someone want to sponsor that? Mr. Cusick will sponsor it, and I'll second it. I mean, I don't have a problem. Would you like to speak to that? I mean, my understanding is this is an individual who has not attended a meeting in the past 6 months of the Revenue Appeals Board. We discussed this yesterday, but just for those, that weren't here. Was it 6 months?
It is, sir.
Yeah. And it's a very important, we need the people on that board. It's pretty straightforward. So, what's that? Yeah, and it's an ordinance. It's going to be voted on at the next thing. I just wanted to make sure if anything had to be said. All right, we're finished with that. Let's move on. And now we are having the, let me find my control here. The consideration of the resolution, oh, I'm sorry, no, we've got the most important thing I think we might be doing tonight beyond the bond. And that is consideration of filling the vacancy on Northampton County Council. And we have the resolution. And let me find it in all of my things here. Okay. Be it resolved by the Northampton County Council that his name will be put in. Kevin Lott shall be selected to fill the unexpired District 1 vacancy on the Northampton County Council. Mr. Lott is here. I see him in the audience. If someone would like him to come to the podium and ask him any questions, I'm just saying if I have a question, you should do it at the podium. Maybe you don't. If you have nothing to say or ask, well,
I'm going to do the same thing I did. Kevin doesn't have to come up. It's not a question for him. It's I'm going to ask the same thing of the solicitors that I did before with Mr. Ken Brown, based on the fact that Kevin is a sitting council person in Hellertown. Okay, I just want to make sure that the solicitors on both sides agree that there's no perceived conflict of interest, as long as he makes a decision not to stay on council, I believe. Okay. Now I can't ask him that. I can't ask him to do anything. I just want that out in the open.
I think Ms. Zembo has had conversations with Mr. Lott.
Why doesn't he approach him?
Can you confirm if he has to resign?
I think it has to be effective before he gets sworn in.
I think the problem is that we can't vote on it unless he's already resigned.
Well, we
I
can vote on
disagree.
it, but
Mr. Lott is here. Why don't we just ask him if he intends to resign from the Hellertown Borough Council before we swear
Well,
him
I mean,
in?
she spoke to him, and they did say that you were resigning. You can even give the effective date if you want. I don't care.
Do you have your letter?
This is my letter of resignation
Okay.
dated
There you go.
today, if I would be fortunate enough to be
Well,
on the council.
Okay,
That answers that.
Is it as eloquent as Mr. Barron's was? No, that's okay.
No, thank you.
You can, well, you can give that to Mrs. Zemba.
That's a formality.
All right, so, should I call for anything else? If not, let's call for the vote.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. Congratulations. You may find Hellertown was a great place to be on government.
You're taking a pay cut, right? I think you are.
Congratulations. All right. If you want to come up and sit here, feel free to sit if you want to get the view before you get sworn in.
Come on up, Kevin.
Hey, you can sit. Come on up.
Mr. Solicitor?
He can sit.
He could sit, but he may not
Well, no, you can't participate, you can't vote,
get a vote.
but you're welcome to come up and get,
Just try out the chair.
Try out the chair.
Yeah.
try out the chair, capture the view, so you're ready by the, because we're going to have a budget hearing this coming Wednesday, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, lots of
And
fun.
You're sworn in, you come and enjoy
You want to
Enjoy
switch
it.
seats now?
That may not be your seat forever because, there is peer pressure and seniority, and who knows who'll bump who for what chair. So, I don't know, I may be going back there. So the thing is,
I got you.
anyway, I like my buddy Bill there. He's a good man to sit next to.
Thank you, council. Appreciate it.
Good luck. Thank you. All right, so now we'll move on to the consideration of the resolution authorizing the obligation of the 2018 Help America Vote Act, election security grant, funds received by County of Northampton, administered by the Pennsylvania Department of State. Mr. Kusick.
Okay, a resolution authorizing the obligation of the Consolidated Appropriations Act 2018, Public Law 115-141, otherwise known as the 2018 Help America Vote Act. Election security grant funds received by the County of Northampton, administered by the Pennsylvania Department of State. Whereas cybersecurity and resilience are of the utmost importance, and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania wants to ensure Voters are using the most secure, auditable, accessible, and resilient voting machines available, and whereas Northampton County was awarded a 2018 HAVA Election Security Grant funds in the amount of $341,969.77 for procurement of voting systems that meet current state and federal requirements, including employing a voter verifiable paper record and being certified to the United States Election Assistance Commission current voluntary voting system guidelines and Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's new comprehensive voting system security and accessibility standards. Now therefore be it resolved by the Northampton County Council that the county hereby obligates its 2018 HAVA election security grant funding and shall have an individual with the authority to contract on behalf of the county sign and return the notice of intent by November 30th, 2018. This was discussed at the Finance Committee yesterday, and the recommendation was for approval.
Are any questions, issues, concerns? Mr. Kusick or anybody else? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro? And
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8 to 0.
All right. Next on the agenda is consideration of the controller audit resolution. Excuse me, Mr. Kusick,
Okay.
you again.
Sure. Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council respectfully requests that the Northampton County Controller's Office perform an audit report of those properties within such aforementioned tax abatement programs, KOZ and KOEZ, determine the efficiency and effectiveness of those programs. It is requested that said audit addresses but not necessarily be limited to the following questions/issues. Number one, what year the property is in the program. Number two, what improvements have been made to the property. Number three, whether the property continues to meet the requirements set forth in the laws governing the specific tax abatement program. This was discussed yesterday at the Finance Committee, and the Controller's Office did indicate that reducing the scope to just the KOZ and the KOEZ makes it much more doable for him and his staff.
As Mr. Kusick said, we did discuss this. The controller is here, though. If there's any additional questions or discussions, council have anything they want to. Seeing none, Ms. Zembo?
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Passes by a vote of 8 to 0.
All right. Is there any other new business? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that council move to executive session at this time.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
All right. We're going to move. What? Sorry, what?
Purpose of being.
Purpose is an issue regarding personnel that the county executive brought to our attention. Okay. Keep us on our toes. I'm sorry.
You got to sit here all by yourself.
Yep. You're already a victim of the rules. I've already told people. I said he's a kinder, gentler version of that. And it doesn't take much to get there.
Kevin, so let me.
Okay.
A conference call.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
talked to IT about
All right.
today.
Yeah, and
And that's what we're going to do.
they could teach Linda how to do that if it's necessary for your meetings based on whatever policy decision council makes. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Barron.
But I appreciate that, Linda. Thank you.
I mean, really, other than, the county council meetings, that's where we do our work. That's where
Right.
we make law or not make law, whatever. The other meetings are important, but it's not, it's what it is. So I don't have a problem with people calling in personally, but I just want to get a handle on the new technology and talk to Chris, and I think we're all clear on that. But thank you, Ms. Husky. Yes, you were on the phone along with. And we're back up recording. To the people who have been watching or are still at home breathlessly waiting to see what happened, We went into an executive session approximately 7:25 on personnel issues. We came back at approximately 7:30 and reconvened. We just had a discussion on how people attend meetings and new technology, and also the fact that our recording went down and we couldn't find anybody, but now apparently we found somebody and it's on. So, back to committee reports. We had are there any committee reports beyond finance? All right. Oh, well, Mr. McGee, we did have personnel, but we moved everything to tonight because there was nothing really to discuss.
It's
wanna
old
say
news,
something?
but yeah, I'm sorry. In the Human Services Committee, I know I canceled it, but last time we were at the meeting, I found out that Deb Nunes passed away that day. But I was asked not to say anything because her family all hadn't been notified at the time. So I just wanted to publicly say what a wonderful person she was, what an asset she was to the county, and that she'll be desperately missed.
Thank you. Thank you. Council liaison reports. Anyone want to say anything? Nothing.
Just to Lehigh Valley.
Yes, sir.
Lehigh
Mr.
Valley
McGee.
Planning had their gala at the sales, and it was attended. I think Tara Zarinsky, Lori Wargo Hefner, myself, the county executive, and Northampton County walked away with a lot of awards. Borough of Bath, West Easton. There was a bunch of them.
She had a good time.
Palmer Township. So we were pretty happy about that. It was
Okay.
a good event.
Great. Thank you. Any other liaison reports?
So I have a
Yes, Ms.
a report
Zirinsky.
from the conservation districts,
Go ahead.
which I'm a board member of, but I think it's important to rope everybody into what we're trying to do is the conservation districts, myself, and the Bushkill Watershed Conservancy met today about the water quality of the Bushkill Creek. We met with Dr. Patricia Bratt from Muhlenberg, who conducted a study, and it's pretty important because it does determine the water quality of a very exceptional value waterway. And we determined that there were two things that they asked of the council, and one is to get the historical GIS land use for the portion of the creek that she was evaluating in Lower Tatamy, and I believe that we could get that through Joe Lakey. I hope that doesn't contribute to his workload, but she also commented about a GIS worker that might be budgeted for 2019 that could help with that project. The other thing was talking about the Act 167 plan for the Bushkill Creek watershed and getting that moved up. There is one for the Monocacy that was just passed through the LVPC, and so there's a number of these watersheds that have to be reviewed for their Act 167 evaluation, and she wants to go through and try to request that. So those were a couple things that we talked about today, and then also the ag tech, and that was also talked about at the Conservation District's meeting last Tuesday.
Thank you very much. Any other liaison reports? Seeing none. Council Clerk, report.
Just a reminder, Wednesday, October 24th is our budget hearing. It will be for the court system and corrections without court administration. It'll begin at 4 p.m.
The judge says he can't be here. The judge isn't going to be here. And does the council solicitors report? Okay. Adjournment?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Aye. We're out of here. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'll turn my mic.
Miss Hefner.